Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm Ryan in Singapore. Welcome to our mindfulness practice. Today's topic is Zen from a secular perspective. So I have recently been doing, the last retreat I did was a Zen retreat. I've started to go and do some Zen practice here in Singapore. And to be honest, one of the major reason that I'm doing it is that I know how challenging it is for me to sit in meditation for long periods of time. And so the Zen Center here in Singapore, a group of people get together and meditate for an hour and a half together. And that's something that I would find very challenging to do by myself, these days anyway. Just feel like it just requires a certain motivation. And I guess the other thing too is there's this kind of, I don't know, positive peer pressure when I'm sitting with other people. So that I'm sitting and it's like I'm less likely to get up and go to the bathroom or follow my distractions if I'm with others. And so that helps, and to have the Zen Center there and to have already done some of this practice makes me feel welcomed in that space, and it doesn't feel alien. It doesn't feel like I've got a bunch of stuff that I don't know how to do. Zen is very procedural. So, just to know what are the procedures and follow the procedures makes me feel comfortable to be able to go there and to do this hour and a half meditation on Tuesday and Thursday nights. So it's basically after I do these live events, I do run through my whole day, and then at the end of the day, from 7:30 to 9 p.m., I'll sit with the Zen group here in Singapore. It's so far it's pretty nice, but I don't consider myself a Buddhist. What does that even mean? Maybe that's a different topic. What does it mean to claim a religion, right? To say I'm a Christian, I'm a Buddhist. That's something that I haven't really figured out after, I grew up I was raised as a Christian, and so, what does that mean? And I think that I think that for me it was a big deal, and to kind of let go of that title of Christian was a big deal for me. And so for me to add some other religious title and say I am X is a big leap. So what does it mean? And also I feel it means something different in Asian culture, Asian religions. What it means to be Buddhist, what it means to be Hindu, maybe is a bit different than what it means to be Jewish or Christian or Muslim. So that's an interesting little dynamic as well. And I guess I just kind of want to share with you, that's kind of the internal struggle that I have. Being in Asia, basically doing a lot of practice that is in sync with an Asian religion. What does that mean? And is it a big deal? Does it matter? Does it matter what I call myself? And I guess that's a great segue into Zen, because one of the main concepts of Zen is about the I, me, and mine. Is that this is one of the things that causes us suffering, is this constant attachment to this thing which, according to Zen teaching, doesn't even exist. The I, me, and mine. And I reflect back onto my first retreat, which wasn't a Zen retreat. It was a Theravada Thai forest retreat. Was this story about, there's a terrible storm, and you wake up the next morning and you look out of the window on the left side of your house and you see your neighbor's house, and you see Marjorie's house, right? And Marjorie's house has her Toyota Prius outside, And what has happened is that a tree has fallen and it's crushed Marjorie's Prius. And you go, oh man, what a shame. Poor Marjorie, her Prius has been destroyed, right? And then you go over to the windows on the right side of your house, and you look out of the right side of the house, and lo and behold, a tree has fallen and crushed your Prius. And it's a different situation entirely when you say, oh my goodness, what a tragedy, my car has been crushed. I can't believe it. What am I going to do? It's just even though essentially the exact same thing happened. It's just that because the I, me, and mine has been attached to it, that there's a significant amount of additional suffering that goes on. And so this kind of wrestling with, well, what am I? What bucket do I need to allocate myself to? What category do I fall into? That defines my in-groups and out-groups, right? That separates me from the rest of humanity, right? Maybe makes me feel like I belong to something, to this smaller group, but it also excludes me from all of these other things. And so it becomes this barrier to our interconnectedness. And I mean, this is really funny because Zen is, all of this stuff that I'm currently talking about is embedded in the Zen practice. So what is Zen? Zen is this, it's a Buddhist tradition. It emphasizes direct experience over theory and thinking. And so this really is the core of what Zen is. It's about direct experience. It's less about reading, it's less about collecting ideas, it's about looking closely at the mind moment by moment. So Zen is awareness training, it's training in simplicity, it's seeing through the stories and not creating external suffering, and also seeing when our mind creates those stories. So this I, me, and mine that I mentioned is something as well that the first time I heard it was when John Kabat-Zinn was talking about it. And it's not a coincidence, I think, that John Kabat-Zinn's teacher was, and I'm just going to hold this up here. It's like propping my mic up at the moment. Oops, here. Sung San, right? Zen master Sung San. And so there's no coincidence that you hear John Kabat-Zinn talk about I, me, and mine, because his original practice, the way he got introduced to mindfulness, is through Korean Zen. And that's kind of what drew me to go on this retreat, because I thought, hey, if this is how John Kabat-Zinn started, let me give it a try and see what it's about. And I guess that's maybe one of the things that makes Buddhism a bit different from other religions. And there's a hell museum here in Singapore, of all things. It's I guess maybe that's the name to try and bait you to come there, but really what it is it's a museum about the afterlife and what happens by various religious traditions when you die. And what is really interesting is there are two really different, Eastern religion and Western religion are relatively similar in how they view this. And I guess I bring it up not because it's important what people believe after you die, but it just kind of shows that these are two quite different schools of thought. And so because of that, as a Westerner who grew up as a Christian, practicing Zen practices and going, well, this isn't religious to me, realizing that part of it is my Western perspective. That my Western perspective is having me seeing this as not religion because of the box that that I put religion into. And so it doesn't, if it looks like a duck, it sounds like a duck, it quacks like a duck, then it's probably a duck. I don't see that with Buddhism. I see things being a little bit different. That said, as I do explore Zen, I do find that there are some tendencies towards supernatural, and maybe it's the teacher that I saw in the retreat that I went on. It's like what can we do for these? What can we do for this group of people who's suffering? It's like, well, let's do this chanting. Let's and to me that's a little bit different. That if I do this in my practice, it has some external effect on the world around me. Whereas the way that I've always seen practice, and maybe this is how other forms of Zen, like Japanese Zen perhaps, is more about the self-transformation. That the way that I transform the world is through transformation of myself. And that as I am growing as a person, then I can't help but have a positive effect on the world around me. Not that like you get 100 people in a room chanting and like our chanting creates some kind of spiritual energy that has some kind of impact on the world. And I did feel that maybe there is some aspect of this belief in Korean Zen. And I think that was interesting to notice, and I guess I just kind of wanted to call that out, which is another reason why, as I keep practicing, I'm so hesitant to adopt this label of Buddhist for myself. So I'm quite comfortable at this point being a secular practitioner. And it was interesting, as I went to practice last week, the guy at the Zen Center who's kind of running the practice said, "Are you Buddhist?" And I just really felt there's some tightening and some hesitation, and I just kind of, I'm like, well, not really, right? That was my answer, not really. And I realized the only reason he was asking that question is because he was going to use some Buddhist terminology, which, interestingly, I'm quite familiar with. So that is, he's basically just kind of testing. If I use this language, is this guy going to understand what I'm saying? It's not really about, are we part of the same group, which is kind of how I saw it. So that's kind of, I guess I just wanted to use just a couple events to talk a little bit more about my experience as I'm doing a bit more as I'm doing a bit more Zen practice, because I'm using it as a way to keep my meditation strong and to keep my desire and willpower to meditate strong, so that I do practice more. It's maybe the reason that you join these live events is so that you are more motivated. You're here with a lot of other people practicing together. So, does that help to motivate you to practice more? In my case, certainly it does. And, I don't need guided meditation. I like meditating in silence. I find there's a lot of benefit to meditating in silence, and so that's, this is my version of Insight Timer. I actually have to, drive somewhere or go somewhere, not necessarily drive. Sometimes take the public transport to get over to the Zen Center and do some meditation with some other people. So, Jean says, I've heard that chanting helps situation in the vagus nerve. And I think you might be right. And I haven't done much research about it. But I have done, Sunday, I joined a session with the Zen Center in Hong Kong, and I did some chanting. And when I was in the retreat, I found that chanting was helpful for my concentration. That after doing a lot of chanting and then doing sitting meditation, I found that my concentration, my ability to stay focused was a little bit stronger. And that cultivation of strong concentration is good for us in our daily lives, because it can help us to be less reactive. And that's really what I'm here for. I'm here practicing so that I can be less reactive, so that I can be more aware, so that I don't react out of anger and do stupid things, so that I don't harm the people around me. And I think that is a way, certainly, to have a positive impact on the world, is for you to be doing less harmful things to yourself and to others. It helps you get out of your own head. Exactly, Gene. Thank you. So, I have a bunch of talking points, and I don't think I covered any of. I barely covered them. I think I just cracked into the beginning. But I guess that's it. Is that this beginning talk is to talk about secular practice. What does religion mean to me, and why I may hesitate to adopt a label, and then what Zen looks like. And I think that is the key thing to understand. Is Zen is about getting out of your own head. It's about focusing on experience and less about reading. And I think that was another thing I learned on the retreat, was that as another monk was approaching Sun Sang to ask him about how to practice, and talking about all the reading that he's done, Sun Sang is like, from now on, you don't read anymore. You only do practice, because you're so caught up in your own head trying to learn about all these different meditation techniques and techniques about meditation practice, that actually the reading is causing you to be more stuck in your own thoughts. So instead of reading more, do more practice. And it's funny to kind of come across that story, because that's I call it the Ryan Grimes rule of meditation, is that for every 1 hour you spend reading, you should spend 9 hours meditating. And it goes, this story kind of goes along with that. It is about experiencing. There's only so much that you can gain through reading. Like Zen is not or meditation is like, it's like a gym for the mind. How wonderful, like how useful, how much are you going to change your body by reading about exercise compared to doing the exercise, right? So instead of listening to me talk even more, let's go ahead and get into our practice. So get comfortable wherever you are. Maybe next time I'll talk about Zen posture. I mean, if that's interesting to you. But frankly speaking, meditation can be done in a lot of different postures. I will encourage you, though, to sit up straight and tall. Try to bring your back away from the backrest if you're sitting in a chair or on a sofa. That way you're using your own muscles to keep your back straight. This will help you with alertness. Crown of the head towards the ceiling. Just feeling into your spine. Is your spine straight? What do the muscles in the lower back feel like? What do the muscles in the neck feel like? As for your hands, you could fold your hands in your lap, or you can place one hand in the other. So for Zen practice, this is the mudra. I guess I can talk about its utility. Next time, maybe we just chat about that. It is for a reason, just like almost everything in Zen. We do it for a reason. It's not just there to, for some arbitrary, like an energy flows through the circle or something like that. It is practical, and real world practical. In Zen practice, we keep our eyes open, the eyes half closed, the gaze down at 45 degrees. So you can choose to do that if you like today. And again, I'm all about flexibility. Do what works for you in your practice. And I say that because I just look at where all of my microphone is and my computer are and all of my live event gear. For me today, what makes sense is to close my eyes. And so notice that you are breathing. I mean, I can never guarantee what's going on in any of your heads, what emotional state you're in. But I can guarantee that you're breathing. So notice what it feels like to be breathing. Notice the belly rising and falling with the breath. And so, beginning Zen practice, you may want to count. That might help you feel more comfortable. You may feel more concentrated. So the mind is silent except for the end of the exhale. Inhale, exhale, 1. Inhale, exhale, 2. Inhale, exhale, 3. Inhale, exhale, 4. And go ahead and continue at your own pace until you get to 10. After 10, go back to 1. So let's just try this for a few minutes. Following the breath, counting the breaths at the end of the exhale. Did you go to 11 after 10? This can be a sign of the mind being a bit mindless. So again, don't judge yourself. It's okay. Don't judge yourself if you can find yourself, your mind wandering around, going here and there, darting here and there, trying to escape the meditation. This is normal. And when I say don't judge yourself, maybe a better way to say it is be aware that you are judging yourself. Keep following the breath as best you can. And so in Zen practice, when the mind wanders, the idea is returning to zero, returning back to our natural mind state, which is free of thinking. Coming back to this experiential moment. So experiencing what it feels like to be breathing. Noticing that experiencing doesn't have any words, doesn't have any thoughts attached to it. So simply experiencing the present moment. Coming back to zero. All right, keep it up. You're doing great. We're almost finished. Notice what happens in your body when I tell you that we're almost finished. Congratulations for having made it through today's practice. I'm going to close our practice with 3 rings of the bell. After you hear the sound of the 3rd bell, feel free to start moving around. Open your eyes if they were closed. Thanks everybody for practicing with me. It's a pleasure having you here as always. Hope that it's a pleasure being here with you. Hang on a second. How'd it go? How was your practice today? And while I'm waiting for you to tell me how things went, my visitor has come over. The real Zen meditator. You're not purring. You're supposed to be purring when I'm holding you. Oh yeah. Here you go. Here you go. If you scratch him right here, then he drools. Here we go. So come on. Let's do your drool. Come on, start licking your chops. Now he's purring. That's the Zen cat. I think this other cat, it's going to be interesting little dynamic between these two to see how it goes. I sure hope it's a nice one. I hope that my wife is happy, and she really has a really good buddy to keep her company. She really misses the cat. The first cat we had together was her first pet, so she's got a really special place in her heart for him and misses him. I don't think she's trying to replace him, but it's kind of like, Frank doesn't. Well, first of all, Frank's too furry and he makes me really allergic, so I can't be affectionate with him. And because she's not affectionate with him, Frank isn't as, he's not as clingy to her as he is to me or to my middle son. So we'll do some more talk about Zen, and I guess something I'm curious too is this an interesting topic for you? It's interesting for me because this is what what I've been working on, and I'm just kind of like, one of the things that I like to do with my live events is whatever I'm studying, whatever I'm working on, to kind of share it with you, so that it's like I do the heavy lifting, so you don't have to, right? I do the readings, and then I come back and I tell you kind of what I've learned in the readings and about my life, and maybe what I talk about resonates with you. It's like you can relate to this, and if it's stuff that feels unrelatable, like this isn't, like I totally don't know what Ryan's talking about and this isn't interesting to me, I really do hope that you'll share with me in this chat or in the group, the circle that we have, the group chat, which is Ryan's daily mindfulness circle, which is what I use 20 minutes before the meditation. Like if you haven't if you missed the sign up or couldn't find the sign up, I'll always post that in there. So, but if you let me know, because I'm planning to continue talking about this topic as I keep doing my learnings about it. I think there's a lot, there's so much, there's so many things that we can chat about in these live events, and I guess I just was looking for if there's any feedback that anything you would like to see, or especially if this is not a topic that you're interested in, so then I can kind of shift gears. But I am reading The Compass of Zen, and I'm just kind of interested to share what I discover as I go through that book, and how that is going to relate to our secular practice, so that we don't have any belief that's required, but what, as a Zen practitioner, can what can a person who's like me, doesn't consider themselves a Buddhist, what can we pull away from these practices and find useful in our daily lives? And and what's that like? I'm sure that doing Zen practice in the Korean Zen Center here in Singapore is different from doing Zen practice in the Korean Zen Center in Rhode Island. I'm sure there's a different flavor to it here just because of the cultural differences. I'm sure it's what I did in my retreat in Hong Kong is going to be different from what I had here. So Singapore and Hong Kong are, it's closer than Singapore and Rhode Island, but still there are going to be slightly different flavors, different teachers, and see how that goes. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, J.E. I think another cat could never be as beautiful as Frankie. I don't know. Okay, I'm biased. I do love Frank a lot, so I'm kind of with you there. But we'll see. We'll see if feline number 2 starts to grow on me a little bit. Certainly, when he showed up yesterday, my whole family. I mean, he's the new thing. Everybody wants to crowd around him, so that probably continues to overstimulate him. All right. Anyway, I'll be back in 47 hours and 15 minutes. We'll talk a little bit more about this. I'll share probably some of the talking points that I had prepared for today to say, well, what is Zen? What isn't Zen? What are ways to practice? Do we even need to get so caught up on this? What can we as secular practitioners take away from this? So look forward to sharing with you a little bit more. Rosamond, thanks so much for your feedback. This topic's really useful. I'm doing a very long course on Zen by somebody else, and a second perspective is great. So the deliberately obscure metaphors puzzle me. Yes, definitely, because they make you think a lot, which seems to conflict with the basic idea. Exactly. So Zen koans, that's the word, is the koan. The koan is actually designed to get you out of your head. And it's counterintuitive. It's like all this thinking that people try to do to decode the koans is actually, I think maybe that's it, is that you think and you think and you think and you think until you can't think anymore, and that's when you break through the koan. So best of luck as you work on that, and we can chat about that a little bit more. So yeah, that's a super simple breakdown of how koans work. So that I mean, there's a lot more to it than just that, but that's kind of what's going on there. I definitely, neither have I. I have not, and anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Say bye, Frank. Here, wave. Let's close our practice with some well wishes to ourselves and to everybody else. May I be happy and peaceful. May everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, I wish you all happiness and peace. May all sentient life, all beings, everyone, everywhere, may we all be happy and peaceful. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time. Bye-bye.